Hello friends, welcome to the video. Today we have got the extraordinary, the revelations, the second part of the extraordinary film series directed by Jon Sumple. This time though, we're focusing on the endgame of who? Endgame of the ET visitors in our planet. Yes, you heard me right. So the first movie, directed by the same crew, they have focused on the abductees, the alien abductees, who were taken against their will at different times, at different points in their life, and the trauma that they experienced throughout their life as a result of this unsolicited abductions by these visitors. And today we are looking into another exciting series, exciting movie, but we will be seeing it only part by part. First of all, we will look into perhaps a biblical part, and we will see how they are bringing in all the prehistorical biblical elements and how they're trying to make sense out of it. Do they really think that these visitors of today have a connection to these visitors of the past? That will be a difficult connection to make, because there is no way to find out if there is a connection at all. We can't open ourselves to a new reality by trying to understand a past which is very hardly recorded, very hardly understood, and so on. So, anyhow, we will look into all of this, but part by part. First of all, perhaps the biblical illustration. We'll have an analysis about what they're really trying to say and how well the movie was taken. All of this will be assessing soon after the first part. So first of all, let's see what we have got here. Extraordinary Revelations. The movie was released in the last year, November, and we're going to watch here today. Thank you.
What is the end game? It is integration, seamless integration into society. The hybrids are integrating into society. They look like us, they sound like us, they dress like us, they are us in every way except they can control us. That is a threat beyond anything that the human race has yet to face. And I think that people need to wake up to the reality of what's happening. UFO sightings and so forth, that's old hat. It's time to wake up to the abduction phenomenon and to have an understanding of how far advanced it truly is. The enemy is in the gates. That's the reality.
Rather than ask, is there proof that aliens have visited the planet, I guess the way I would look at it is there evidence? Is there good evidence? So if you're willing to keep it at that level, I would say there's an overwhelming amount of good evidence that non-humans or another civilization's been visiting our world. I would say the answer is yes. And for me, the evidence is very strong in the words of our own government officials and our own military personnel. The thing that I've studied more than anything else are military reports of UFOs. I've studied them a lot. There's an overabundance of declassified military literature describing events that should never have happened, that don't make any sense in the 1940s or 50s or 60s or beyond. And so when you see enough of these, you really have to ask yourself, what is going on? If it were one or two reports of a disc-shaped object zigzagging or instantly accelerating or completely outperforming our best jets, you might think, okay, maybe that's some misinterpretation or something else. But this has gone on over and over again. On top of that, what I would emphasize is the response by our military authorities and by our intelligence community authorities has been very serious.
One of the questions I ask as a hypnotherapist is, have you on any level agreed to this experience? On any level? And I'm talking to that superconscious part of them. And interestingly, most will say, yes, before I came here. So we're talking about on a soul level. So the alien intervention will be something they've orchestrated as part of their human journey.
People can't understand that we cannot look at their technology and they don't care about our technology. What we care about is who these beings are and what they're up to, why they're doing this. We don't know how they get here. We don't know if they come from millions of miles away or 10 feet away from a different world or whatever. We don't know that stuff. But we do know what they are doing to us. That we know.
Modern thought follows principles of the Big Bang Theory and Darwinism to explain the origins of the universe and human evolution. But what if other factors played a role in our development and the genesis of our belief systems? Thousands of years ago, Paleolithic man decorated cave walls with images they saw in daily life. Animals, hunting parties, seasonal rituals, and celestial bodies. But also appearing in ancient art were alien-looking beings with large heads and eyes, and sometimes aboard strange-looking craft. As Mesopotamia, Egypt, Greece, and Rome flourished, depictions of humanoid beings and flying objects remained consistent in artwork and literature. ET-related iconography appeared around the globe. In indigenous cultures such as the Central American Mayan and Aztec, South American Incan, Aboriginal Australians, and North American Anasazi. Is it a coincidence this imagery was consistent during a time when these civilizations had no contact with each other? During the European Renaissance, paintings, drawings, and mosaics showed UFOs in the sky, men in aircraft, and even laser beams. And strange objects are seen observing religious events, such as the birth of Jesus and the crucifixion. During the Black Plague, many sightings of cigar-shaped vessels were reported, similar to German reports in 1561 in Nuremberg and 1566 in Basel, involving similar-shaped objects. The first documented sighting in the Americas was March 1st, 1639. Massachusetts Governor John Winthrop wrote about 3 men who observed a light in the sky above their boat. Over the course of a few hours, the mysterious light darted back and forth between the men and the village of Charlestown, approximately 2 miles away. The governor wrote that when the strange apparition finally faded, the 3 men were stunned to find themselves 1 mile upstream, as if the light had transported them. Modern UFO sightings began in 1947 when civilian pilot Kenneth Arnold spotted a formation of flying saucers near Mount Rainier in Washington. Shortly after Arnold's sighting, a saucer-shaped craft reportedly crashed outside Roswell, New Mexico. Headlines read, RAAF captures flying saucer on ranch in Roswell region. Although the military claimed the incident was a weather balloon, UFO mania ran rampant in the United States, with sightings reported daily across the country. In the name of national security, Air Force General Nathan Twining launched Project Sign in 1948, the first of many military intelligence programs tasked with collecting information on UFO sightings. Over the next several decades, one strange case followed another, with many providing compelling photo evidence, video evidence, and trace physical evidence. So what do these modern documented experiences reveal? The same flying objects and beings appearing on cave walls, described in ancient text and adorned on Renaissance paintings. If beings have been present since prehistoric times, what influence have they had on our beliefs? On our evolution? Have they been using us as lab rats with the intention of replacing us? Are they part of a predestined biblical narrative? Or is their intention to aid in evolution, guiding us to be galactic neighbors who use advancing technology and wisdom for universal good? And what role do government and military leaders play in fostering the various narratives surrounding ET existence? Are they harboring a secret? Propagating a lie, protecting humanity from invasion? Exactly how much do they know about the ET agenda? Valid and important questions, whose answers will likely determine the future of our planet.
People think of the UFO phenomenon as being modern. It isn't. In ancient days, there were far less of the things that we have now that people misidentify. No satellites, no weather balloons, no aircraft. There has never been a time when people haven't seen strange things in the sky.
From my perspective, the UFO engagement against mankind goes back probably 450,000 years. And I'm basing that off of the Sumerian tablets, the Enuma Elish and the 7 tablets of creation, and also the Atra Aces epic. According to those tablets, around close to almost 500,000 years ago is when these beings came in from another star system.
We either had very strange-looking human beings back a long time ago, or the people, the indigenous people of those time periods, witnessed and saw some very strange things on this planet. You look at the Nazca lines in Peru, you can only see them from above. Who are they showing it to? I think they're showing it to extraterrestrials. Caves all over this planet have depictions of beings with big heads, like the alien greys, whatever they may be.
They are drawing what they see. They're not being, as I say, particularly symbolic about it. They're seeing something anomalous in the sky. To them it would be magical or something part of their reality. They would have no understanding of it, but they would find in some way it attracts them because they were drawing everything from animals, they were drawing all their surroundings, what they were actually seeing.
Those traditions and their whole entire religious belief systems and cultural belief systems are based upon that. That was handed down through generations as history. Those cultures do not believe it to be a mythology. They understand it to be fact.
They really didn't have a lot of time to just make up like these elaborate stories for entertainment. They really only wrote down and drew what they saw and what they experienced. So when you see a cave painting that looks like an alien, right next to it you'll see what looks like a normal cattle or a normal sheep. because they knew what they looked like. So if you see something that they've drawn that looks like it doesn't belong on Earth or looks alien to us, it probably was.
They have names for these beings, and one of them is called the Wangina, and it's all over cave drawings, the being with the big black eyes. And they came from the Seven Sisters, and they came down and they taught Aborigines how to live. They taught them about amethyst stones for healing, all these kinds of things they were learning from these beings that they saw as visiting us.
When you take a look at cave paintings, at early paintings, at paintings from different cultures, if you look hard enough, you're going to see what looks like UFOs or aliens or something like that in them. The evidence for them actually being UFOs or aliens is zero. And we will never have the evidence for it one way or the other unless our little friends tell us.
If we were to see something inexplicable today, we could write about it, we could report it. There are websites. Go back 500 years, go back 1,000 years. You see something that's inexplicable and you don't have writing. Most of the cultures didn't. So how would they process that experience? Well, they would talk about it to each other. It would become part of their oral history. And so what happens is over centuries, you've got all of these oral traditions that exist. We don't have a time machine that's going to take us back to see exactly what was going on there. So really all that we have are these stories and some artifacts, and we do our best trying to put a picture together. It's always going to be incomplete. That's the problem.
They've been here for a very long time. I think they've impacted our society in ways that if we looked at it from a third-party perspective, we go, oh yeah, well that makes sense, but we don't know, or most of us don't know anyway. And that could be genetically, could be technology-wise, could be social. There's many different ways that they could have impacted us.
They're all subject to interpretation. And in many of them, if you want to see alien technology and flying saucers, that's exactly what you're going to see. Now, with that being said, our visitors have been here ever since man walked the face of this planet. They had open contact with the people of this planet. They actually would go ahead and teach man a lot of things that was unknown to them at that time. Therefore, you find certain ancient civilizations were more advanced than others. And we would scratch our heads wondering, how did this happen?
You can find this in Homer and the Trojan War. I mean, the gods were on different sides. Some of the Sumerian texts talk about the gods being on different sides of their war, and they've been using humans as proxies because they just have not been able to kind of like resolve their own conflicts without too much damage to themselves, but great damage to our own global civilization.
Modern times, people, when they say something's a myth, they say it's a false story. The myths in the ancient time, the stories of the gods, people believed them. It was reality. Just like people today, Christian people believe the biblical stories like they're reality. But in fact, the biblical stories are myths. They're just as mythological as the ancient Greek, Roman, Nordic myths were. It's the same thing. The thing is that the Christian, the Judeo-Christian people have been indoctrinated for 16 centuries to believe that these myths are historical reality, but they're not.
Human beings are pretty stubborn, and until your back's against the wall, you're not inclined to listen. You really, you've got to be really pushed. And I think that's what's happening now, is that we're really getting to a point where people are finally waking up, saying, hold on a minute, this is not cool.
How much of all that is attributable to those things and how much is actually literally real in a physical, there it is sense, I don't know. The skeptics have to be right every day. The believers only need to be right once. And if just one of those instances, whether it's historical or modern day, turns out to be the real thing, then we are in game-changing, paradigm-shifting territory.
Historical evidence suggests we've been visited by and interacting with ETs for millennia. If true, what's the purpose of alien abductions and hybridization experiments? More importantly, what's the end game? Answers vary widely depending on who you ask.
I think what you have to do is look at who is saying what and what is their credibility, what are their scientific backgrounds, then make up your own mind whether you think what they're saying is right or not. But everybody's entitled to an opinion, and everybody has a different view over extraterrestrials, what they're doing, why they're doing what they are doing.
The philosopher Bertrand Russell wrote a book called Religion and Science. He said, look, so a scientific thinker is always thinking provisionally. They're not thinking in terms of absolutes. Now, scientists are human beings just like everyone else, and they sometimes slip up and they can become absolutists. But science itself is always filled with one provisional hypothesis and theory after another. And hypotheses and theories can be revised.
I have learned that I can't be static in a position that I take because I don't know what's around the corner. Tomorrow that I might hear more information that completely changes what I believe today. Some people can't do that. They don't want to do it. They make a choice to stay put. And I think when somebody is in fear themselves, then everything they're going to see is going to be a fear-based perspective. I think you have to be aware at first that you've been programmed into a limited mindset. So as soon as you become aware of that, then you start to expand anyway, because you're not allowing that to be your reality. You're saying, I believe I'm something greater than this, or I can achieve something greater than this.
You can play the game, what if aliens, what if this, what if that? But at the end of the day, how do you know that you're not being deceived on every level? How do you know? How can you know?
There's one very important point of agreement here, which is that these beings are doing something in an attempt to transform us.
There's some people who believe that extraterrestrials are here to replace us, and that they're doing it in a very methodical way, creating these hybrids. Some may be on this planet now, others could be in spaceships or on the other planet, waiting to be brought back by the millions to take over good old planet Earth. Why would they do this to a civilization? Why would they want us wiped out? Maybe one thing is that they think we're going to wipe ourselves out and that they want the planet to continue to exist. And so they will feed it with the civilization. Maybe they know an asteroid is going to hit the planet in 50 years from now. Who knows? That could wipe out civilizations too. So there's that possibility that what they're doing is creating a seed farm for the future to keep this planet vibrant and alive. And then there's that theory, as Dr. Jacobs would say, they're here to take over, and we're out.
Based off of 7 to 8 million people coming forward saying they've been abducted by aliens and have had different types of operations done, and there may be a hybridization program, it's possible they could be inserting themselves into the population and that they could be walking amongst us. Like Thoth says in the Emerald Tablets, he says he would transfer his consciousness from one avatar body to another, and then he would walk amongst men, but unlike a man.
Hybrids, who Dr. Jacobs calls hybrids, advanced hybrids that look like us in every way, except there's some interesting faculties that they've retained from their insectulin progenitors, that these beings are already integrating into human society. The infiltration is happening now and has been happening for some time. According to Dr. Jacobs' work and others in the field, abductees are now reporting that they have been, for the last several years, perhaps the last decade, actively training hybrids and hybrids in human society and how to integrate into human society. Some of them are trained to fly UFOs. Some of them are trained to neurally engage with other humans. Some of them are trained to use some of the instrumentation that the aliens use. Some of them are being prepared for the change.
What I'm getting, often as not, is something completely different. And the way they're understanding their hybrid nature is they're bringing the best of many species into the human form to be part of this shift. And when they say they're taking over, look, we're all hybrids. We've taken over the world. We did it once they manipulated us in the first place. What's the big deal? All they're doing now is making sure that we're bringing more programs in to help with that process. So taking over what? We're already here.
The real question that they've got to be asking is there an agenda that's going on that they need to deal with? What can we learn about their motivations based on what it appears they're doing? So when you talk to a number of abductees and they are telling you about their interaction with these human-looking hybrids who are participating in an abduction program that is designed to infiltrate our society over and over again, in which they, as Jacobs describes, have the ability to exert neurological control over you and infiltrate your thoughts and control your thinking. That's unsettling, and yet that's his results. Now, the real question we need to ask is there a flaw in his methodology that we can critique to allow us to say, no, we're not dealing with that? I've tried to look for those flaws, and in my opinion, he has a stronger methodology than the Ascension, Love, and Light camp, which I don't think has done nearly the depth of analysis of abductees that he has done. It's my opinion. Like his abductees, the people that he deals with them over and over, and he goes deeper and deeper. He does that because he doesn't charge anything. It's free. And so he's able to have people coming back to him. And his point has always been, you're not going to get the truth on the first or second time when you do hypnotic regression. The truth is buried deeper.
Dr. David Jacobs conducted extensive research on alien abductees, including more than 750 hypnotic regressions. His investigation indicates a disturbing revolution is underway.
We have spread around the world and conquered as much as we possibly can. Western civilization has, and even Eastern civilization to a large extent. We don't know whether this is true of other beings in the universe or not, but it certainly is true of what humans have done. My best guess is, and this is a guess, is that, yeah, they're doing the same thing. Yes, this is what they do too, just like us. I've got a coterie of abductees who are coming to me over the years, many, many, many different abductees. Some are staying for years, and I'm looking at what they're saying to me for years as the years go by. Other ones have one session with me, and that's it. And there's everybody in the middle. Abductees have told me accounts whereby in the future, they will have a job to do. The one that people say the most of all the crazy things to say, not knowing that other people are saying this too, is crowd control. When they get older, they will be required to stand on the corner of a street. There will be a large number of humans or of people running down the street, and your job is to say, just keep going, just keep moving, just keep moving. Everything will be okay, just keep moving. That's what their job will be in the future. You have to try to imagine if this is coming out of people's imaginations and it's not happening. Crowd control would not be the number one memory that they had about what's going to happen in the future. It's just nonsensical. Then they were beginning to change a little bit and say other things too, not knowing that other people were changing. Then they began to change a lot, not knowing what other people were changing. And what they were describing was that the ones on board who looked really, really human were coming down and trying to learn what it's like to walk among us, to be human. And at that point, I knew it's integration into the society prior to takeover. That's the best way I can say it. They can control us, and we can't control them. They are superhumans, so to speak, and we aren't.
The implications of colonization are difficult to comprehend. Integration before takeover is straight out of Hollywood, yet Dr. Jacobs makes a compelling argument that hybrid beings live among us, undetected.
Over the decades, people have talked about how these hybrids are looking more and more human. Very human. In fact, just plain human. Wearing human clothes and acting human, etc., etc. And then people began to tell us that they're moving in, that they're moving in apartments, that they're living here. And if it's happening here in the United States, it's happening everywhere. There's nothing unique about the United States and the UFO phenomenon. But the key problem here, and here is still the key problem, they can control us and we can't control them, and you can't ever forget that. That is the most significant thing about this. Whether they're going to take over or not, they can control the human mind. The only way that I can figure out what's going on is that ultimately this is an infiltration into the society where they can control us and we cannot control them. I don't know what's going to happen after that. I fear the worst. I think that these beings on board UFOs have done this before. We can't be the very first planet that this ever happened to. And they can't be the very first beings who ever did this to a planet. That you have to think widely. This probably has happened many times in the past, and it's happening to us now. And I do think that this is ultimately, as abductees have said over and over again, that this will be a takeover.
And no segment of humanity is immune from this nefarious agenda. Money and social status will not save you from ET colonization.
I have talked to people who have PhDs and MDs, people who are university professors, people who are physicians, people who are attorneys, LLDs, who are abductees and who say X, Y, and Z just like everybody else. I've talked with 5 different people who are members of the clergy. They all say the same thing. I've talked with people who are in graduate school and everybody else in between. It doesn't matter. The religion doesn't matter. None of that matters. They all say the same thing. It's important information. It's the most important thing I could ever do in my life, and I think that Bud felt that way too. I think that most serious UFO researchers feel that way. And it's something that I'm glad I did. And at the same time, if I hadn't have done it, I probably would have lived a better life. Probably had a happier, jauntier aspect to me. But I hope that it convinces some people who want to look into this to do so seriously and properly. That would be good. That would be a tremendous help. Obviously, for the whole society, for the whole world, if I may talk in these large terms. Anybody can do what I'm doing, as long as abductees are willing. Anybody can do it as long as they're doing it right. The problem with it is that everybody thinks it's crazy, and if you do it, you have to keep your mouth shut because they'll think you're crazy. And if you don't charge money, then you're just wasting time for many people, and it's a tough one. It's a hard one. But there were others who did research, and they came up with good material as well. So I hate to be one of the last few.
Not all belief systems associated with abductions and hybrid programs are doom and gloom. Many believe alien intervention is leading the next wave of human evolution. Mary Rodwell has researched more than 3,000 alien abduction cases, concluding that extraterrestrial encounters, specifically those focused on hybridization, are part of a genetic engineering program. The goal?
All right. So, if all this that you have heard just now is straight out of a Hollywood movie, probably you could suggest Dr. David Jacobs to be like a Terminator or something else. Well, I myself is a fan of Dr. Jacobs, and I have done a few videos. One review of his latest book, which is The Alien Plan to Control Humanity, Walking Among Us. I have done a review in my local native language. So far what we have witnessed here is that they are trying to somehow see the relationship between the modern UFO sightings and all ancient UFO sightings. And Earth has been visited for a long period of time for different purposes. That's clear. There are records, many anecdotal records are there, many sightings, cave paintings. So they drew it because they saw it, just like everything else. And then there is another account that they are part of creation. That the typical evolution story alone doesn't fit into our creation story, or biblical evolutionary creation story also doesn't stand around if we are trying to look into the evidence of some of those discoveries, such as the alien DNA, our DNA being alien DNA. This was discovered by some of scientists way back in the 2000s, early 2000s. So some of these really projects us to the idea that they were part of our creation. Probably, definitely, but Allies of Humanity briefings, which is a set of off-planet publications reviewed by Marzulli and Sumple, has also said the same. Okay. So the detailing and how that has come about is totally different, and the current objective of the visitors of today is completely different. This happened very long time ago, so there is nothing to connect between the two of them. The only connection would be the one which would be the false stories and narratives that they will be bringing into us to make us believe that this is the case. How deceptive, but is there any way for us to make it out? No. And that's another perspective that they have been here for a very long time. Okay, very long time. I've often heard people in the social media and elsewhere making this argument. Okay. This is nothing new about it. This has been happening for this is happening all the time. We're witnessing strange things in the skies, and so on and so forth. But are we new? Are we in a new stage of evolution? Are we in any new thresholds? Probably they should look around a bit. And then there is the spiritual and physical. How is it related to the religions of the world? Are they the creators of our religions too? That's another question. Definitely, man has been looking up to the skies for a long time, thinking that there's something, a divine being out there. So probably this inspiration came from these ET visitors. That's the way they're putting it, but God is in here. The truth is in here. So that's another way of looking at it. So the spiritual versus physical, this thing will be more and more confusing. People are trying to make their own interpretations and theories out of it. People like Mary Rodwell are probably dangerous in this regard. And then the final part of it says that whatever they're doing, they are here to transform. They're not just passing by, but they're just not here to observe and see and how good it is. And just like watching squirrels climbing up and down the trees. None of that shit, but that they're here for a transformation, either for the good of us or for the worst. So, why did this happen? Even though Mary Rodwell has appeared to be, or at least she is presenting as someone who's very open to all perspectives, my thinking might change, my ideas might change, but still, I found her to be as someone like an odd one out in this whole list of people who have spoken so far. Again, the neurological control that they have been able to exert. That's a powerful game changer. That means they can control us, we can control them. What's going to be at stake in the future, no one knows. Somebody must know. Probably. There should be some help. And already said by Richard Dolan, but very wise words. He mentioned about the extensive research by David Jacobs, and Jacobs also gave a detailed explanation about probably what he thinks is a very surreptitious and cruel plan of these visitors. And that's it for this part. We'll continue this I think the next one is ascension paradigm, and maybe followed by colonization. Biblical, I don't think they have much take on it, the biblical aspect of it. But nevertheless, there are a lot of scholars who are already reading and studying and preaching about some of these. Timothy Alberino, I've seen him here, and I'm glad that he's with the colonization paradigm. And his words exactly going by the Dr. Jacob's work. Okay, we'll see the rest of the videos later. Thank you.